Yo, what is going on, guys? Winner Kills here, and welcome to a brand new locals feature match. Here we are in round 3 to kick off the week. Some of you guys have probably been noticing I've been uploading videos a bit earlier in the day, around like noon my time. I don't know if you guys have, like I said, noticed this change, but let me know if you guys like it. If you prefer the later time, like around like 5 p.m. Eastern, like I was doing in the past. But I don't know, I kind of like the videos going up earlier. It kind of like fits in better with my day-to-day schedule, I guess. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. But either way, we got Tear, we got Spright. Classic bread and butter matchup this format. And let's go ahead and hop right into it. We're going to see Tear lead with the field spell, lead with a Rhino Heart. The Rhino Heart will get Ash Desires, not really drawing into any other way to play there, as it would seem. And we're just going to see our Tear player set 3 and pass turn. Unfortunate. Although, you know, the set cards could be pretty good. You have Salic, you've got Meta Noise, things like Imperm, Called by the Grave could be back there, right? So, at least 2 interruptions here probably, and you know, things like Call By and even Meta Noise can go in pretty good against this particular deck. Spright, right? You book a level 2 monster, they need to put another body on field, and they need another body in hand to keep playing. And Call By the Grave hitting Ronin Totem, absolutely huge. Call By the Grave on Totally Awesome is just also kind of a blowout against the Spright deck too, if they don't have Carrot already in play, obviously. And yeah, our Spright player taking some time here to figure out what he wants to go and exactly banish off of this Pot of Prosperity, which is another card I see quite a bit in the Spright decks. Seems like only a small portion of the extra deck is really needed. Your Elves, your Gigantics, Djinn Buster, right? Maybe the Zeus package, and obviously your Elf, if I didn't already say that, and Toad, of course. But yeah, so we're going to see him dig 6 deep, taking a copy of Swap Frog, and then we're going to see him normal the Swap Frog here. It activates effect. We go ahead and dub Ronin. And as expected, one of the back rows is a copy of Meta Noise, so we will see him book the Swap Frog face down, and then send a copy of Merly as part of the effect. We'll see Merly attempt to activate DD Crow, and looks like the DD Crow will resolve, so we could probably assume that there's no Called by the Grave in the back line. Otherwise, why let that resolve? I guess this Monster Reborn resolving 2, bringing back Ronin Totem would also be indicated that there's no Called by in the back line either. We're going to see him special summon Spright Blue. Importantly, you know, getting that level 2 body back on field, but there is an impermanence that will go ahead and negate the blue, giving our Spright player here just a couple less options now at this point. No access to Jet, which means no access to Starter or Smashers, but he could go into a Gigantic, get a Swap Frog out of the deck, and then make an Elf, and then possibly get into a Toad from there, depending on what the opponent has in the back line. I think that would be the line to take here, right? Gigantic summons a Swap, then you have Swap Ronin Engrave and you link for Elf, and then you summon another Swap, dump another one if you have one left at that point, which I don't think you would. I think all swaps would be out of the deck, but then you just Ronin for Swap. So we were going to see him go for Elf, actually. Elf will bring back the Ronin, and then he's going to go for a Gigantic, detaching the Ronin to bring out Swap. This works too, I guess. Yeah, because I believe once this swap comes out, it will send the last swap. I believe that's how this is going to play out. Unless he decides to go for a Spright name, which I'm not sure why he would. So he will go for that swap. Swap effect, go ahead and dump another swap. And that is the last swap in the deck. And of course, Ronin Engraved to bring out itself by banishing the swap. I'm pretty sure you could have done that the opposite way. If he just made Gigantic first, I think either line leads to this exact field. But I think the other way would be better because you have access to Elf. I don't know. Am I tripping? Could he not have done it that way? I don't know. It's almost 2 a.m. as I'm doing this commentary, so we're going to see him pass turn there after swinging in for half damage because of the Pot of Prosperity. We'll see the standby phase Toad effect to bring out the Dupe Frog. The main deck completely devoid of any level 2 Aqua monsters at this point. And we're going to see our tier player lead with a copy of Terraforming to go ahead and grab a copy of Perlarino. Activating Perlarino over the other copy that was on field to go ahead and add a copy of Havness. And it has a copy of Merly in hand as well. And if the Toad decides to interact with the Merly, he could chain the Havness in hand, give him another chance to go ahead and attempt to fusion summon. But he's going to need quite a bit to go ahead and try to get through this board. He does have to worry about, I guess, not a whole lot, right? Just one Toad negate. Yeah, honestly, not a whole lot here. It really depends what the back row is also for our Spright player right now. A Call by the Grave would be pretty good. We're going to see this Merly go ahead and resolve, and it looks like he will only hit a Squamata. And he will end up not using the effect of the Squamata there. And we're just going to see him use Sharon in hand to attempt to discard and special summon itself to mill 3. We know the last card in his hand is Havness, so if he decides to negate the Sharon with Toad, he will chain the Havness, right? The Toad will steal the Sharon out of the graveyard, preventing the Sharon itself from being able to fuse, even though it did potentially hit the grave. It still has to send itself back to the deck to fuse, but then he can chain Havness, which gives him another opportunity to fusion. But now that the Sharon missed, and now the Havness is the only way to fusion there, he can go ahead and stop him from summoning a fusion at that point with the Toad. Sometimes it can be really easy to like negate things like that, but you have to remember, like, you don't want to stop random chances to fusion. You want to make sure you're only hitting the graveyard effects when you can of the Tearlament monsters. Otherwise, you're stopping what would be potential effects to fusion summon, right? You got to wait till they get direct access. Also, that Rhino Heart mill was kind of unfortunate. That would have been really strong if he didn't have to get rid of the last card in his hand, which was also happened to be a Tearlament card. That way he could have gotten the Rhino Heart back out of the grave, triggered a graveyard effect off the discard for Rhino Heart, and then get another effect off of the Rhino Heart, sending from deck to grave. So our Tearlament player doesn't really have too many options right now other than to go to the battle phase and attempt to swing over this Dupe Frog. And remember, all Tearlaments and fusions right now, because of Perlarino, are getting 500 attacks. So the Sharon, I believe, is at 23, and Merly is gaining 5. Merly, I think, has 800, I want to say. 800 attack. So it'd be at 13 with the help of the field spell, and we're going to see our Tearlament player go ahead and pass turn. The deck typically doesn't play links, at least pure builds like the one we're seeing here. I know the Punk versions tend to play a lot more link stuff, right? They go for the Curious and Nightmare Griffin stuff, which I think is actually really, really strong. I think if you're going to play tier, I think that's probably one of the better ways to play it, even if you're also playing like the danger stuff as well. But I think this is like a pure tier build for those that are curious, like standard run-of-the-mill Tearlament deck with some Shaddoll cards in it. And we're going to see our Spright player here lead with Ronin, bringing out itself by banishing a swap, and then normal summoning a swap that was added back off the Toad, allowing him to get access to Elf. Elf going to go ahead and bring back the Toad that was made previously last turn. And, since it was properly summoned, Elf can go ahead and revive it. And we're going to see Spright starter here. Really good card to have at this point. It's going to allow him to get access to blue. He'll take 1100 damage. And blue will go ahead and attempt to search a Spright monster. And we'll see if he can go for the OTK here. Now, the one thing that Spright does technically have to deal with all the time is that it has a very low attack ceiling as a deck, at least for the Spright engine itself. I think your biggest attack monster is 1400, and that is Pixies, right? Speak of the devil. At 1400. But of course, the Spright Elf does have the double attack since it was summoned using a Link 2. So that is a 3200 gigantic Spright. And then we're going to see him be able to go into Dark, the Dark Charmer Gloomy. And then we're going to see him go ahead and banish, I would say not banish a Spright Blue to summon that Ronin, but banish a Dupe. Okay, that looked a little suspect there, but now going in for a second gigantic Spright. That also being boosted to 3200, and then normal summoning or special summoning the Pixies, and I think that is going to be enough damage there to go for game, especially this opponent X61. So, kind of eating my words there. The deck has a hard time OTKing, but, you know, it does need a lot of cards right there. Like, he had to have access to a lot of stuff to be able to get in for a decent amount of damage. So, into game 2, shout out to Imperium Duelist. Check them out at the link below, and don't forget to use my discount code. And again, if you guys are buying anything on TCG Player, please do not forget to use the affiliate link I have to their site down in the description of all my videos. Anytime you guys shop and check out using that link, a small bit of the revenue from your purchase will go right back in the channel and helps out a ton. So getting into the game 2 here, we're going to see our Spright player lead with a copy of Starter, summoning out red, taking 1200 damage, special summoning blue to go ahead and add Carrot. Already has the Jet in hand, so we'll special summon that to go ahead and surge out a Spright spell or trap. Gonna go ahead and add a copy of Smashers. Is there a Spright trap? I don't know offhand if there's a Spright trap. And it'd be funny if there wasn't, because it'd be like Necroz of Clausulus that can add a Necroz spell or trap, but there just isn't a trap. And they've never printed one in the 7 years that Necroz has been a thing, which I also think is hilarious. Somebody's gonna tell me that there's got to be a Spright trap, right? But we're gonna see him do standard Spright plays here. Elf bringing back swap, right? And then swap for Ronin. Go ahead and overlay the Ronin and the swap for totally awesome. So we've got the Elf with the Toad, with the red, with the Carrot. So that is just 4 interruptions right there. A monster negate, a spell trap negate, and an Omni negate from the Toad, and then the recursion from the Elf. And we're going to see him follow that whole combo up with a copy of Pot of Prosperity. Only banishing 3, trying to probably find a hand trap or something, or some extra follow-up, but he will find an Imperm, so probably exactly what he was looking for there. Not want to dig 6 deep, you know, you just need to see a little extra something. And then Imperm will definitely be enough, so we're going to see him go ahead and set 2. And obviously we know that the set cards are going to be Smashers and Imperm, so this is a 1, 2, 3, 4 interruption board, or 6 interruption board now. We'll see the standby phase. Swap Frog, we can probably imagine that the dupe was maybe sided out here in favor of seeing more going for side deck cards, whatever that may be. This is also where we typically expect to see the Spright deck flip over the anti-spell to secure the game. But yeah, we're going to see Lava Golem going over the 2 best cards on the entire board, which is the Toad and the Elf. And then we're going to see the Toad add back a swap. Now, he still has to worry about a Carrot and a red, which is, you know, it's something. Still 4 interruptions to try to get through. Well, technically 3 because, well, no, he has the swap on field, which is important, which will allow him to negate with either the red or the Carrot, both of them, actually. Because the red will have to, like, if he uses red first, he'll have to get rid of swap, and then if he wants to use Carrot, he'll have to get rid of the red. Also, as we see our tier player activate the Sheeran, I'm curious to know, like, what's the data on, you know, the percentage of tier or Spright players that get Lava Golemed. How many of them actually end up losing that game? That'd be an interesting statistic to know. But we're gonna see Sheeran discard a Rhino Heart, milling 3, milling no names. Just a field spell, a mass change, and a polarization, I believe it was. So all spells, no names, but he will get the Rhino Heart effect. I would hope that he can at least resolve the Rhino Heart effect engrave. Else he's really in a bad spot. We're going to see the red negate the Rhino Heart. He'll chain Havness to that, milling 3, and he does get a name off of that. It is a Merly, so Merly will go ahead and fusion off with itself, the Rhino Heart, and the Havness on board. And we're going to see the Kaleido Heart here to go ahead and attempt to clear 2 cards. He'll be able to shuffle 1 back with the Kaleido Heart, and the field spell will be able to destroy 1. So this will be a good opportunity to be able to go after those back row, which we know are Smashers and Imperm. So targeting both of those. I imagine you'd also probably want to chain block Perla Rhino too with the Kaleido Heart, so the Carrot cannot negate the field spell effect to pop a card, because there's no way he can. Well, I mean, he could still negate the Kaleido Heart with the Imperm, but at least the field spell is going to be guaranteed to resolve. So you definitely have to do chain link Perla Rhino, chaining to Kaleido Heart here. It's got to be the only way to the only smart way to go about it here, I would say. So we'll see if he chains the Smashers. I mean, you definitely chain the Imperm here, right? Although it's not really going to do much because, like, chaining the Imperm is just, like, Kaleido Heart and the Field Spell are still doing its job if the Imperm is even getting used still. He will use the Smashers, banishing Starter from Grave and the Red on Field. That's going to banish the Kaleido Heart. That's kind of strong, getting rid of it for good, as I don't have a way to get those cards back. And then we're going to see Instant Fusion to follow up, which is also insane. Like, incredibly insane here. And that's going to go for Kit Kalos. We'll see Kit Kalos effect. For a second, I thought that Rhoda was a Starlight rare, but it's an ugly Platinum rare. I'll say it every time. And he's going to go ahead and add a copy of the Trap, and then Kit Kalos effect on itself to bring out a Merly to go for the Mill 8. And our Spright player has certainly seen enough there, so we're into a Game 3 situation. And here in Game 3, we're going to see a very unfortunate start for our Spright player as he opened up double Talents, Crow, Ash, Jet, which is unplayable, so he did have to pass his turn. And, yeah, so our Tier player does have a battle phase here. Don't get confused. It's not his turn 1. He will be able to attack since the Spright player, again, did pass his first turn because of an unplayable hand. So, Ash on the Rhino Heart, and then a Crow on the Merly that was pitched off the Sheeran will be enough to slow this Tier player down for just a turn. He does have Salix still. No rank 4 play here. Not going for anything like a, what is it? A Redoer here, which is kind of interesting. I feel like Redoer would be kind of strong, but I guess he's confident with just the Salic. Which I guess if you want the Salic to resolve, I guess you want to have Tears on field. Here we're going to see our Spright player normal Jet, special summon another Jet, that second Jet being a godsend here. Technically allowing him to play, but the Salic will negate it. And he will go for a Dragostapelia. And the Dragostapelia will activate its effect, putting a counter on one of the Jets, making it a level 1. So that is going to prevent his opponent from getting access to Gigantic. But he could also just easily link into Elf, and then Elf brings back a Jet, and then he overlays the Jet and the Elf into Gigantic, and then that summons something. We will see one of these 2 talents, though, in our Spright player's hand. Get some value here, taking the Dragostapelia, which is okay, I guess. And I'm not sure, actually, if the counter would fall off the opponent's monster now. Now that the Dragostapelia has changed control. I don't think it would necessarily. But we're just going to see him link off both Jets into an Elf. And then the Elf will attempt to bring back a Jet. That's going to get hit with the DD Crow. Again, DD Crow finding some pretty good value here in, you know, against both of these decks. Maybe more so than Tearlament, like against Tearlament than Spright, but, you know, still very, very good, you know, hitting Elf targets and hitting, you know, Ronin Toad and etc., etc. We're going to see our Spright player go into battle phase, hitting for 27 with the Drago and 14 with the Elf. And I don't think, yeah, he cannot link off the Elf since it was just summoned this turn. It cannot be used until the turn that was summoned. And he cannot overlay with a Gigantic, so he will, unfortunately, have to give his opponent back that Dragostapelia. And we're going to see our Tier player slap down a copy of Perla Rhino to start things off. Going for the Rhino Heart, dumping a copy of Merly, and that will trigger Merly effect. Also, I think I saw Droll Lock in the grave for our Tier player. I'm not sure why Droll's in the side against this particular deck. Although I could, like, maybe see why. I don't know. Droll feels like one of the last things I'd want to put in against this deck. Maybe not the last, but, you know, it's definitely not high up on my list of priorities. We're going to see the Mill 8 combo here, going for a Kit Kalos, bring out a Merly. It'll trigger the effect of Sheeran. And he will go ahead and fuse for a Kaleido Heart, and it looks like that will be the end of the game right there. We're going to see the Pure Tier deck go ahead and take the match there 2-1. A very unfortunate opening for our Spright player there. He was going to clear the Elf. He has, you know, talents in hand, put him on top deck, and whatever he tops deck, if it's a monster, is going to get hit with the Dragostapelia. So that's going to do it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. And last but not least, a huge shout out goes to our Divine level channel members who are Pony Start, Cadillacs84, Justin Lamb, HE8 Cyber, and Mango. Thank you guys so much as always for showing me kind and generous support of the channel.